Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. This is Krishna Dasa. So today we are going to continue with the 18th chapter. Before we begin, I will say the prayers to Guru and God. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksharu Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः।
Hare Krishna. So we are going to do 18.41 to 18.48. Now I'll play the slokas.
ब्राह्मण क्षत्रिय विशां शूद्राणां च परन्तप कर्माणि प्रविभक्तानि स्वभावप्रभवैर्गुणैः शमोदमस्तपः शौचं शान्तिरार्जवमेव च ज्ञानं विज्ञानमास्तिक्यं ब्रह्म कर्म स्वभावजम् शौर्यं तेजो धृतिर्दाक्ष्यं युद्धे चाप्यपलायनम् दानमीश्वर भावश्च क्षात्रं कर्म स्वभावजम् कृषिगौरक्ष्य वाणिज्यं वैश्यकर्म स्वभावजम् परिचर्यात्मकं कर्म शूद्रस्यापि स्वभावजम् स्वे स्वे कर्मण्यभिरतः संसिद्धिं लभते नरः स्वकर्मनिरतः सिद्धिं यथा विन्दति तच्छृणु यतः प्रवृत्तिर्भूतानां येन सर्वमिदं ततम् स्वकर्मणा तमभ्यर्च्य सिद्धिं विन्दति मानवः श्रेयान् स्वधर्मो विगुणः परधर्मात् स्वनुष्ठितात् स्वभावनियतं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम् सहजं कर्म कौन्तेय सदोषमपि न त्यजेत् सर्वारम्भा हि दोषेण धूमेनाग्निरिवावृताः
18.41 O Arjuna, the duties of the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras are distributed according to their qualities in accordance with their gunas and not according to birth. 18.42 Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which Brahmins work. 18.43 Heroism, vigor, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work of the Kshatriyas, for the Kshatriyas. 18.44 Agriculture, cow protection and trade are the natural work for Vaishyas, and serving others through work is a natural duty for those with the qualities of Shudras. 18.45 By fulfilling their duties, born of their innate qualities, human beings can attain perfection. Now hear from me how one can become perfect by discharging one's prescribed duties. 18.46 By performing one's duties through their natural occupation, one worships the Creator from whom all living entities have come into being and by whom the whole universe is pervaded. By such performance of one's own duties, a person easily attains perfection. 18.47 Better is one's own duty, though imperfectly performed, than the duty of another well performed. By performing the duty prescribed according to one's nature, one does not incur sin. 18.48 One should not abandon duties born of one's nature, O son of Kunti, even if they are defective. For all undertakings, work, are covered by some fault, as fire is covered by smoke. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So now we again continue, and here in these verses, now Krishna has a fresh set of perspective again about doing our duties and how we can get liberation through that, and he's going to go a bit deeper here. So at a high level, he is advising us again that we shouldn't try to escape from life's challenges. We shouldn't try to just run away from the difficulties in life, thinking that that is spirituality. He says true spiritual evolution will happen when we stay and take care of our duties and face our challenges and overcome them. So that is pretty much, I think, at a very high level what he's saying. So he's giving us a guideline on how we can transform our everyday actions into stepping stones for liberation. So that is how we have to approach these slokas. You may recognize some of those slokas may seem little familiar. They are not exactly the same, but they are similar to what we have covered in the past already. So Krishna is now talking about an eternal principle, which is like or a law that says that all duties, they arise from our swabhava. What is swabhava? That's our inner nature. And this is what was called as the varnashrama system. In modern day, they just call it the caste system. But it was a very scientific system. And this was originally based on personal qualities or gunas. That is how this system was built. So what are the person's gunas and what are his corresponding or their corresponding actions, karma? So guna and karma combination was what was supposed to be the varnashrama framework. It was never intended to be based on hereditary or just based on birth. It was not meant, because a lot of scriptures you can read even in Vedanta or even what Krishna says. And people ask this question also. And this question has many different flavors. For example, somebody will come and say, is there a destiny? And, then somebody says, well, it's not something that somebody else dictates. Yes, there is a destiny, but you have the power to change it. See, that is what Krishna has been teaching too, right? Where he says every sinner has a future and every saint has a past. So all of these teachings have to now be put in context, because some people ask, okay, if the varnashrama system was not based on birth, but then Krishna himself said that you take birth based on your own sanskaras and your own karmas, So yes, that is half the truth. Half the truth is somebody is born into a particular family, a particular caste, or a particular social situation based on their karmas and based on their sanskaras. Very true. Also, the people that surround them, in the initial stages of their lives, they are all there based on their karmas and based on the person's karmas and sanskar. That is all true. However, Sri Krishna has put power in our hands. He says we are empowered. We can either fall even lower or we can rise higher. That power he has put in our hands. That is the empowerment. Okay, and so if we act on it, if we are willing to put in the efforts, then we can evolve. Why just varnashrama? I mean, if you are born as a Kshatriya, you can always evolve into a Brahmana, but that is nothing. Krishna said you can become a Jivana Mukta. You can become a liberated soul if you want. And that is our free will. This is what we have studied so far, if you all remember. So we are coming back here. So that is why some people even ask, what about astrology? Are you saying that astrology is pointless because how can somebody predict something if you are saying that, you can? But that is the real fact. The fact is, your birth chart, it is important, definitely. But it is based on what your situation was when you were born. Now, if you don't change anything, if you don't work on yourself, if you are full of inertia and if you, just take life the way it comes, then definitely that your astrology chart may turn out to be accurate, you know. But let us say, for example, let us say somebody is born in a good family, they have good sanskaras, they have good karmas. The astrology chart says, oh, this person is going to grow to become a very successful somebody. Now, just imagine a person looks at the chart and says, yay, I'm going to be a successful somebody. No, I don't have to worry about anything. And then he starts just partying and drinking and dancing and all sort of nonsense and ignoring everything that he has to do in his life. Do you think that person is now really going to become successful? That is the point. The point is, we are empowered, we have the free will, we can either go down or we can go up. And that was the same concept for the Varnashrama system as well. So when you were born, it's okay, but the basis of Varnashrama system was your gunas and your karmas, the combination. And if you are willing to work on it, either you go upwards or you go downwards, you could progress. So even if you look at our own selves, right, some of us will have an inclination. Some of us may say, hey, I want to be a musician. Don't we all, some of us may have that feeling. Some of us may have that feeling like, I want to be a scholar or I want to be an intellectually, successful person. Some of us may have this inclination, I want to be maybe an athlete or I want to be a marathon runner. Why? Why is it that one person feels like becoming a singer, one person feels like becoming a runner, one person feels like becoming a scholar? Why? It's not just random thoughts. It's not that random people get random thoughts on what they want to do. So what is it then based on? That is introspection. If you do, you will figure out that it comes from within you and that depends on your sanskaras, that depends on your gunas. Whatever gunas are predominant, that is going to impact your aspirations. That's going to impact all of that. It's a very, very powerful lesson because, again, it puts power in our hands. So there is a example I will take from Chandogya Upanishad. If you want to read, you can read later. It is 4.4.4 in Chandogya Upanishad. There is this student. His name is Satyakama. And he is approaching a guru. The guru's name is Gautama, a very, very acclaimed guru. And Satyakama wants to learn from this guru. And as you know, in olden days, the Gurukula system had very strict rules on who can be admitted and who can be taught and all of that. So one of the most important criteria is, for example, some particular classes, some particular type of lessons are given only to Kshatriyas. Some particular kind of teachings are given only to Brahmanas. This was how the system was. But Satyakama, his mother, she was not leading a very righteous life in her young days. So she was having relationships with multiple men and all of that. And so when Satyakama had asked his mother, mother, who is my father? Then she told him that, son, I cannot be sure, because I've been with many men, so I cannot really be sure. But before we become judgmental, she also tells her son that, but you should, this is the truth, that I cannot really tell you who your father is, that's the truth. And I think you should stick to the truth. Even if somebody asks you, don't be ashamed, because that is the truth, He keeps it in his mind. And when Gautama asks him, he says, you want to learn from me, but you know the rules of the Gurukula. So you have to tell me what is your Gotra and who is your father. But then Satyakama tells him the truth. He says, sir, I don't know what Gotra I belong to. I don't know who my father is. This is the truth. Now see how that reflects now. After hearing him say like this, the Guru now tells him, he says, you have stuck to the truth. Even though you knew that will put you at risk, even though you knew that will disqualify you from being my student, you really wanted to learn, but still you stuck to the truth. He says that is the quality of a Brahmana. Only a Brahmana, a real Brahmana, can always side with the truth, even if it is not aligned with their success, even if it is not aligned with what they want to achieve. He says, because you have not deviated from truth, you have actually proven to have the quality of a Brahmana. So I will accept you in my class. This is all in our scriptures only. The same scripture that says Varnashrama also has these stories also, where there is documentation of how, the qualities were considered more important. So this is one story. The other story is Chanakya and Chandragupta Maurya. It was a street urchin. He was just a nobody. But Chanakya didn't say, "What is your Gotra? Who is your father?" Chanakya said, "I see leadership qualities in you." And he, grooms him, coaches him, and makes him the great emperor. And vice versa. There was a time when Karna, the story of Karna in Mahabharata. I don't know how many of you know this particular part of the story where Karna actually wanted to learn, and he was not very truthful about his lineage because he really wanted to get that lesson and that teaching. But at one time the guru is resting on his lap, and there is this insect that comes and bites Karna. But Karna does not want to disturb the guru, so he is just tolerating that pain. But when the guru wakes up and when the guru sees what has happened, the guru actually gets angry. He says, this quality of putting up with so much pain cannot be a Brahmana. He says, you can't be a Brahmana. You are definitely a Kshatriya, so you have lied to me. See what I'm saying? All these stories, if you read, they are all documented in our scriptures. You will see the same theme recurring again and again, where all of these saints, all of these gurus, they are all focusing on the gunas. That is more important. That is how this whole Varnashrama system was. So just like that, if you come back to Satyakama's story, his honesty was what got him admission. In other words, he was demonstrating the quality of a Brahmana, and that got him admitted into that Gurukula. Later on, this whole system became corrupt, and initially it was all merit based, and then it became corrupt and it became all birth based. Thanks to people like Dhritarashtra, this whole system became corrupt and it all became, attachment based and birth based. But imagine what would have happened if Satyakama, he did not have the courage to stick to the truth. What would have happened if he was trying to pretend to be somebody else? He would have never found a teacher who actually valued his quality. He would have only found a teacher who valued his lineage, who would have valued who his father was. But because he stuck to the truth, he also found a guru who valued his qualities. Isn't that what every student really needs? Very lot of lessons here. So now, if we reflect, we can see that we, all of us, most of us, all our lives, we try to do this. We try to fit in. It is called as fitting in. And, we try to take on roles that are not aligned with our inner self. We try to do things that don't align with our qualities. And you see what is the result? You can see the result all around us. The society is full of anxiety, full of stress, because everybody is focusing only on fitting in. Very few people are doing this introspection on what is my nature, what is my guna, what is my real quality, what kind of duties are aligned. Oh, we are not doing that, correct? And that is where these teachings are so important. Also, there are some parents who genuinely care for their kids, but then sometimes they will have this opinion that if you have to be somebody, you have to be an engineer or you have to be a doctor. This used to be a joke when I was a kid. If you are not an engineer or a doctor, then you are nobody. It was very, very clear. But what if the inner nature of a child, for example, the inner nature of a child is very artistic, let us say. The child wants to be an artist, the child wants to be a poet or a singer or somebody, and the parent is forcing the child to instead go become a soldier, let's say. What's going to happen? That kid is not going to be a good soldier, nor is the kid going to be a good artist. It's neither here nor there. And the job of a soldier is never going to feel fulfilling because that's not aligned with the kid's nature. So this is the kind of essence of what we are trying to, discuss here, that this mismatch between our inner nature and what we are actually doing, that causes a lot of suffering, that causes a lot of anxiety, and that also causes wasted potential. How can we recognize this? How can we recognize our deeper nature? This is a question. Because Krishna is saying your duties have to be aligned with your nature. So then how do I know what is my nature? So Krishna's framework is a framework of 4 temperaments. That is what is the 4 castes. Okay, there are 4 temperaments, but we can also look for some practical signs. Like, for example, you can ask questions like, what kind of activities are giving me energy rather than taking away energy? Like I'm doing certain activities. Are those activities making me feel energized or are they making me feel tired? That is the question to ask, and that answer will tell you if your inner nature is aligned with that activity. Teaching is a great example because many years ago, I started my career as a teacher. And I can tell you that there are some teachers who would be full of energy, full of enthusiasm. They are like, oh, my class is going to start in half an hour. And there were some teachers who were full of stress and anxiety. They're like, oh, God, my class is going to start in half an hour. So they were suffering their classes, whereas some were enjoying their classes. The act was the same. The act was teaching only. See, what was the difference? The difference was the alignment. Some people, the act of teaching was aligned with their nature and their gunas, so it became a very pleasant activity, whereas there are some people for whom the alignment was not there, so it's making them feel like a torture, but they are doing it for whatever other reason. So each one of us should ask, we should introspect a little bit and say, in my life, what am I doing? And whatever I am doing most of my time, is it making me feel more energized or is it making me feel more tired? If it's making you feel more tired, it's time to introspect and think, what can I do better or what else can I do? It is said that if you are truly aligned with what you like, if you are truly aligned with your inner nature and gunas, it is said that time will cease to exist when you are doing that kind of activity which is aligned. Like if your inner nature is aligned with, let us say, art, and you are painting, you'll be painting and you'll lose track of time. Just like that, if you are teaching and if you are aligned with that, you will lose track of time when you are teaching. But if every 1 minute you are looking at the clock, it is feeling like God, when will this class get over? That means it's just not aligned. That is what we need to ask ourselves. For parents, teachers, leaders, there is a delicate balance between giving guidance and giving this kind of freedom on what people need to choose. All I would say and all Krishna says is just let us try not to impose our own vision or our own ideas onto somebody else on what they should do in life. Let us give them that freedom to figure that out. And then once they figured it out, let us help them in any way possible. And the teaching is, the day we find that alignment between our inner nature and our actions, remarkable things will start happening, because then work will become energizing. See, Krishna said, you do work like, it is a holy divine thing. You do work and you offer it to me, right? All of that we can do only if we are aligned with what we are doing. Otherwise, that kind of nishkama karma will not be possible, because you are suffering what you are doing. So very, very important. And this is what Krishna calls about Svadharma. Svadharma is depending on our nature, our gunas. Okay, so let us see what is this 4 paths of service in the Varnashrama system. We have all studied this. Most of you already know a lot of it, so we can skim through it quickly. So the first path is the path of teachers and guides. So when they said Brahmin, the primary classification for a Brahmin, it was never that Brahmins means holy. It was Brahmins meant they were the teachers and guides. And it is driven predominantly by Satoguna. How can you have Satoguna? Only if you are following Sattvic habits. Only if you are following Sattvic diets. We studied all of that, correct? Okay. So now does it make sense? Now does it make sense why Brahmins don't have non-veg, why Brahmins don't do this, why Brahmins don't do that? That is because that is what is helping them align with their gunas. And when that happens, then that guna, they align with their work, and so on and so forth. So, what is the symptom of people who are aligned with Satoguna? So, Krishna has defined a few things. And if any of these terms feel unfamiliar, raise your hands. We can go into depth. But You can raise your hands, but we have covered all of this in previously, so I will go through them quickly, but I will also pay attention and see if somebody thinks any of these terms needs more explanation. First is Shama, which is tranquility, calmness, and second is Dhamma, Sama and Dhamma. Dhamma is self-restraint. Self-restraint is for inner calmness. How do you handle your own senses? How do you handle distractions? That is Dhamma. Then Tapas, which is austerity. Are you spending time in tapas like fasting and breath control and all of that? Then comes Shaucha, purity. Then comes Kshanti, which is also called as forbearance. Are you able to forgive quickly? That is Kshanti. Okay. Arjavam, which is sincerity. Sincerity, and we also defined this very in a structured way. We said that Arjavam basically means your words, your thought, your deeds, they have to align. From your mouth, you are saying something very sweet. From your mind, you are thinking something else. And your actions are all deceptive. That is a total, recipe for downfall spiritually. So Arjavam and genuineness means all these three things are aligned. And then, of course, Jnana, Vijnana, and Astikya. Astikya is faith. Finally, Krishna says faith also is part of a sattvic nature. So all of these things are symptoms. They all tell you if you have them, that means you are on the path to predominantly having sattvic gunas. All these notes I will share. My request is, we have to continuously do introspection, and it's good to have a checklist and say that, let me go through these notes one more time, especially when I'm not feeling so good, That is when I should look at these notes and see which of these traits, applies to me now. And then you will know if your guna is right now sattvic or rajasic or tamasic. Then make corrections, that's all. The second path is the path of protectors and leaders. That is Kshatriya. So Kshatriya, royalty was not a keyword. The keyword for Kshatriya was the protectors and the leaders. And what are some of the traits called out for them? Shaurya, which is heroism. Tejas, vigor. Dhriti, we recently just studied, and the Karna's example that we gave, that was Dhriti. He was in tremendous pain, but he was determined not to move. He was determined to, and as you can see, clearly it's a Kshatriya guna. That is why his guru said, you cannot be a Brahmana, you have to be a Kshatriya, because that level of Dhriti he had. Then Daksha, which is skill. Skill is more in terms of strategy and tactics and all of that. Fearlessness in battle. Dhana, generosity. Now see, what are the things I've covered? Now, because we spoke about Karna, now if you look at each quality, now you will remember that he had demonstrated all of them. Shaurya, yes, he was the Shurveer. No? Tejas, that is how he is described. Surya Putra is Tejasvi. Dhriti, steadfastness, you already saw. That he demonstrated when he was a student, even from that time. Skill, he was a very skilled archer. In fact, he was supposed to be better than Arjuna. Fearlessness in battle, that was Karna, right? He was never afraid. Dana, generosity, Karna was known as the Dhanavir, right? Where he will never say no if somebody asks him for something. And lastly, leadership. Leadership means assuming responsibility. Responsibility for the benefit of others as a leader. Okay, these are all Kshatriya. Then we come to the third path, Vaishyas. What is the keyword or attributes? They are called as the stewards of resources. In other words, Vaishyas are supposed to be experts in resource management. That is why they run shops and all of that. And some of the traits are, one is agriculture. They are very good in agriculture. Cow protection, Go Raksha. So Vaishyas are supposed to be very good at that. Vanijya is trade. They are very good in trading of goods and services and all of that. So if you find somebody, demonstrating these interests and these things, then you can say that they are aligned with more of the Vaishya kind of duties. Okay? And then we come to the fourth one, which is Shudras. And again, the key word for Shudras was never untouchables. The key word for Shudras was they are the people who are service focused. They are the foundation. They were known as the foundation of society. If, because if they don't do their part, society cannot. For example, somebody may be a very great teacher, but where will they teach? In a school. So who is building the school? Who is keeping the school clean? How do they reach the school? They are taking a transportation, right? Then who is making those vehicles? You see, so many things have to happen before somebody can actually succeed as a teacher. The same holds true for a, Kshatriya. What will they lead? How will they fight a battle? Where are the tools coming from? Who is maintaining their chariots? You see? So the foundation. So the Shudras were called as the foundation of society because they form the foundation, a foundational layer, and it is said that this class of people, their nature is aligned with crafts and maintenance and skilled service. This is what Krishna says in 18.44, where he says that service-oriented work is the nature of this fourth category. See the words very clearly. Service-oriented. That is what Shudras were actually in the Varnashrama system. Because they are the one who could serve humanity in multiple ways, and that naturally diminishes their ego. And because that keeps their ego in check, they are actually more aligned to grow quickly on the spiritual path. Things like cleaning or cooking or repairing, we may think they are lowly tasks, but they are not lowly. They are all excellent tasks that help keep our pride under check, and they are excellent tasks that help us evolve quickly on the spiritual path. So if you look at our Puranas, if you look at our scriptures, there are many such people in the Shudra category who have become very evolved devotees. Like Shabri, we keep on talking about her. She is a great example. Like that, there are many other examples. Purification through desireless work is the next section where Krishna has established these qualities and corresponding duties for each varna based on the gunas. Then Krishna goes on to say what is the universal principle through which we can all achieve spiritual perfection regardless of what we are doing. So Krishna says, doesn't matter if you are teaching or if you are preaching or if you are fighting or if you are, in business or if you are doing service. That is not important, he says. He says, what is important is, are you aligned first of all? And once you know you are aligned, then comes the question, how are you doing whatever you are doing? Let's see how beautifully Krishna ties all of that. That is it. What Krishna says, Sve sve karmanya bhiratah tansiddhim labate naraha. He says, by following their qualities of work, everyone can become perfect. So a Shudra can also get liberated. A Kshatriya can also get liberation. A Brahmana can also get liberation. This is what is actually documented in the Bhagavad Gita and in the other scriptures. So the key does not lie in the nature of work itself, but the key lies in the attitude with which that work is performed. So when we engage in our natural duties, then we will be able to do whatever we are doing with devotion, with detachment. We will be able to do it as a nishkama karma, and that will take us through liberation. And he is explaining, Krishna is explaining the mechanism of this perfection. He is saying that all living entities, they have arisen from the same Supreme Lord, and that Lord is pervading the entire universe. And a human being can attain perfection by worshipping that Lord through the performance of his prescribed work. It all makes sense, right? It's all very logical, the way Krishna is saying. So all he is saying is, if you can offer the results of your work to the divine, then your work itself becomes worship. You don't have to do any special kind of worship to get the grace of the divine or to elevate spiritually. He says your work itself, the work that is aligned with your gunas, the work that is aligned with your inner nature, even if you do that the right way and if you offer the results to the divine, that is the best form of worship. I mean, it's so beautiful. I mean, in our daily lives, what this may mean is you can begin whatever you are doing, when you start your work, at least start it with a quick prayer and say that, Lord, I'm going to start my work, and keep me in the right mindset so that I can offer the results to you. And avoid getting into this mindset of, there is no deserve. I did this, so I deserve rewards. I did this, so I deserve promotion. I did this, so I deserve. That word deserve should, be taken away from our dictionary. This is for people who are on the path of spiritual evolution. Because if you are not even the doer, where is the question of deserve comes from? So when we start doing anything, we should start with a quick prayer and we should do the work with that mindset, saying, I'm doing this entirely as an act of worship. So I will do my best. I'll do a good job. And then I will leave it to the Lord. The results are His. No, that is karmanyevadikaraste mafaleshu kadachana. And every act that we perform sincerely, very poetically it is said that every act that we perform sincerely, it is like placing a coin in the temple of your heart, but not placing a coin the way most of us used to do in the past. I think I have mentioned this earlier. There is a Marathi poet, Pula Deshpande, one of his two-liners I used to really like. He used to say that लोक देवळात जाऊन बाजारात गेल्यासारखे वागतात, चार आठणे देऊन काही ना काहीतरी मागतात. So when we go to a temple and we will throw a few coins at the deity, or we will put some money in the hundi. But why are we doing that? Because we are bribing God. We are saying, okay, now I have put 1,000 rupees, so now I should get something. Or God, take care of that one problem. Here I'm putting 500 rupees in the hundi. That is not the right mindset. The mindset should be, I'm making this as a donation. Let this be put to good use and let somebody benefit from this. I'm doing this just out of devotion. You do that, then that coin, that money really has the value. And we should keep asking ourselves. So before you start work, prayer. While you work, a mindset of gratefulness and humility and devotion. And after you finish your work, ask yourself, am I now just focusing on recognition? Am I focusing on material gain? Or am I still in the mindset of sacrifice, devotion, offering, and I've just done what I'm supposed to do and I've detached? If the answer is later, then you are all well on your way to spiritual evolution, path to liberation. And then comes this other very popular sloka of the choice between being imperfect in your own duty versus being perfect imitating somebody else's duty. And Krishna says, given that choice, choose the former. Even if you are imperfect, stick to your own duty, okay? Don't try to pretend to be somebody else. This you may recollect, this verse may sound similar, where Krishna said, does somebody remember? We have studied this earlier. Yes. Sulataji remembers something.
Yeah. It is Shloka 3.35, Guruji.
Oh my God. Okay. Yes. Yeah. What can you say what it says? That sloka?
It's better to do one's own duty, which aligns with the inner nature, though imperfectly, than imitating to do others' duty very successfully.
Very nice. It's amazing.
Sorry.
I'm very impressed that you remember so much. Thank you, Sulataji. So there, the first line was the same. The first line says that better one's own duty, even if it imperfectly done, than another's, even if it is done perfectly. But there, the second word was the other person's duty, paradharma. That is somebody else's duty. If you follow that, it is full of fear. You will be leading a life of fear and anxiety, and it is full of danger and fear. That is how that ended. Here, the first line is the same, but he's having a slightly different ending to this. Here he says, because by fulfilling your own duty, which is aligned with your own gunas, you will never incur sin. So he's giving a slightly different conclusion here, but the same message is there. Do your own duty, whatever is aligned with your own nature. Okay, then you will not incur sin. Like, I think this is very clear. For example, somebody is born to a family of a butcher. We took this example earlier also. Is born to a family of a butcher, that is their duty, and they do it just as a duty. Or let us say somebody is born to a tribal community, and in the tribal community, they don't have like a super mall where they go in a car and buy food. When you're in a tribal community, you have to hunt your food. That's the only way you get food. And let us say that is part of that tradition. They are born and they hunt. There is no sin there as long as they do it with the right intention and not with greed. I think this morning we studied in Swami Samartha session. The same thing happened where, a hunter was chasing a deer. The deer comes and rests next to Swami Samartha. And then the hunter is still trying to attack the deer, and Swami Samartha just looks at him very compassionately, and the hunter just gets a transformation. And Swami Samartha tells him that hunting should just be out of need. It shouldn't be, out of greed, or it shouldn't be done, for fun or for sports or anything like that. It should just be just because you are in need. And that also, there is a way to do that. The right way that hunting community used to hunt was they would bless the animal and they will thank the animal and they will be grateful for it, and they will prepare the animal to evolve because it sacrificed itself for food. And there's a lot of such science behind that. So what I'm trying to arrive at, maybe you are not born in a tribal community, you are born in a first class, social status and everything. You are driving around a Mercedes, but let us say somebody who is in a tribal community who is hunting an animal. Now you cannot say, oh, he goes and hunts animals, why can't I will also now take a gun and go hunt an animal. Okay, that guy is not going to incur sin, but you will definitely incur sin, because that is not aligned with your Svadharma, that is not aligned with your gunas. So don't try to go and copy that. I hope the message is becoming clear to you. So ask ourselves, how often do we abandon our own natural gifts to pursue something just because the something seems more lucrative, more prestigious? If we are honest, it applies to most of us. We have all made choices in life based on what is more prestigious, what is more socially, cool, and so on and so forth. Instead of always asking what is more aligned with what my heart wants, what is more aligned with what my inner nature is. So the teaching is, let us try to do more of that. Let us try to introspect more and align ourselves more with our own inner nature. Because if we do that, then we will not only be happy while doing those jobs, but we will also be setting ourselves up for success on the spiritual plane. Because then every day you will be performing worship. Isn't that beautiful? Another very important lesson, Krishna says that sometimes our work may seem flawed. But he says that is like, smoke which is hiding fire. So you shouldn't abandon your natural duty just because you think it is flawed. Because he says all beginnings are covered by flaws. Just like all fire is covered by smoke. He says every work will have its flaw. So don't abandon some work just because you think it is flawed, but that is what is really aligned with your inner nature. So don't give it up just because you think it is flawed, because all work is flawed. Very powerful lesson, very powerful analogy, because he is giving the analogy of fire, which is so powerful, because fire, although it is covered by smoke, fire itself will always be pure. That is the message he is giving. He is saying, if you do your own duty with the right bhava, that will always be purifying, even if that work seems to be flawed. That is why he is giving the analogy of a fire. So there is a text called Jnaneshwari, which is a poetic version. And the Jnaneshwari, it has the same teaching. It also gives some practical examples. And the Jnaneshwari says that whether we walk on a straight road or whether we walk on a winding road, he says the effort is same for your legs. The road may be straight or the road may be winding. But if you ask your legs, the act of walking, the legs will say is the same for me. When you walk, the same force, same pressure, same effort, I have to put in. Correct? Just like that, Whether you carry a bag full of stone or whether you carry a bag full of food, they are both burdensome. But only the food is going to nourish. The stone is not going to nourish you. Just like that, the whole, what are we trying to say here? We are saying that put your efforts in things that will really give you the right outcome. What is the right outcome? Is our own evolution, spiritual evolution, and eventually leading to liberation. So he says, if the same effort, if you put on something that you are not aligned with, then it will be like carrying a bag of stones. You are putting in a lot of efforts, but that's not going to nourish you. So understand that. Use your discernment and say that, let me rather carry food. You see? That is the whole point. Although the stone may look shiny and the stone may look, maybe people will praise you and say that, hey, look at that guy, he's carrying so many, cool looking stones. Nobody is going to praise you for carrying, rice and wheat on your back. But that doesn't matter. What matters is what is going to nourish you. Halfway in the journey, you're going to feel hungry. Are you going to eat stones? So that's what Krishna is saying. He's saying, you are anyways going to put your efforts. So when you're going to put your efforts, why don't you align it in a way that it nourishes you? And what is that way? That way is that through this introspection on my work, is it aligned with my inner nature? And then your efforts will be very, very fruitful, is the whole message here. So what he's saying is, no task is lowly if it is performed with this kind of awareness. What makes a task low or high is depending on whether you are doing it mindfully or whether you are doing it totally like in agony and out of alignment. You may do something that looks very prestigious, like teaching, as I said, but if you are suffering it every day, that is actually a lowly work for you, because it is bringing you down. That is very, very important, very powerful lesson. So much of our psychological suffering, if you see, they will all arise between this, split between who we are and who we think we should be. What is our natural state and what is the socially imposed state. If we introspect, each one of us will have, experiences. Whenever we are authentic and whenever whatever we do is aligned with our authentic self, it will never feel like a burden. It will never feel stressful. I know some of us here, like, I think Deepaji, she really wanted to go do that marathon, And I don't think she was feeling bad for herself saying, hey, I'm running so much. Did it ever happen, Deepaji? You were enjoying it. Why were you enjoying it? Because nobody was forcing you to do that. It came from within you. Something within you wanted to do it. You wanted to do it, right? It was aligned with your likes. It was aligned with your nature. So it became pleasurable, but it's not fun. It was a lot of efforts. It was painful. But you are not feeling pained. You are feeling like you are achieving something. See, that is the very logical, simple message Krishna is giving here. But just because you did it, don't try to go force, somebody else and say you also have to do it. Now, if somebody else does it only because Deepa did it, and Deepa got so many likes on Facebook, Deepa put a photo of marathon and she got like 5,000 likes. Now I have to run. I'm going to feel very painful. I'm not going to feel happy. I'm not going to feel accomplished. It's going to be a psychological torture for me. Why? The same exercise, the same marathon. The problem is, I'm not aligned. You see, it's not who I am. It is who I think I should be. See, that is the message. See, now the lesson of authenticity, you see how many angles it has. How many levels that authenticity impacts us. Because when we are not authentic, we are causing pain and trouble to our own self. Knowingly or unknowingly, that is how the laws of the universe works. It is not that you're not authentic means you're not authentic only with me or only with your friend and so somehow it is your friend who is suffering. No. When you are not authentic, eventually you are going to create a lot of pain for your own self. You're going to create a lot of suffering for your own self because that is the law of the universe. If you're going against the flow, it will always be a struggle. And why would somebody go against the flow? Because they are not authentic. Their heart tells them you are supposed to go with the flow. But then, their ego tells them if you go against the flow, people are going to clap. And so they try to do something which is not aligned with them. That is a symptom of not being genuine, not being authentic. So all of these teachings, they all tie together and they all connect all the various points. So I'll give you some simple steps for transformation. You can call it spiritual technology. The first one is observe. The simple, like this was a question we asked earlier. Now I'm saying just observe. Observe what kind of activities energizes us and what kind of activity drains us. And make a note of that. And because that will reveal, there will be a pattern. You will see a pattern there. Even simple things like taking a walk. I don't want to take names, but I know that even in this group, I know at least somebody who hates walking. But there are some people in this group who love walking, who can just walk for hours and they feel rejuvenated. But if they try to force this other person, or if the other person tries to do it just because someone else is doing it, it's only going to give them pain. So when you walk, make a note. Is it making you feeling energized or is it making you feel drained and is it making you feel tired? Like that, whatever activities that you are doing on a day-to-day basis, do this very quick introspection and observation. That will reveal some patterns. Then you try to note down all the things that actually is making you feel energized. Then go back to this set of slokas in the Bhagavad Gita. Look at the traits. It will reveal what is your predominant guna. It will reveal what is your predominant nature. And then it will reveal what kind of jobs or duties you should pick in the future. So it's very, very powerful. Okay, then act selflessly. Selflessly basically means don't always be focused on what is the reward. Then that takes away the joy of what you are doing. I'll tell you a very simple example, and this is not just me. I've heard it from many other friends also. Like take anything as simple as photography. Like I still enjoy photography. It's one of my passion. But there was a time when I tried to make it a profession. There was a time when I had my own photography institute and I had photography lessons, photography tours and product photography. Initially it felt fine, but the moment it started becoming like I have to do, because now it was tied to monetary, it was tied to investments. Then I had to make some profits, So suddenly my focus was now on, I need to make at least this much. I need to pay these bills. And then I realized one fine day that I'm no longer feeling happy about photography. Same camera, same photographer, same act of clicking photos. What changed? The mindset changed. When I was doing it as a hobby, I was not focusing on any reward. I was just focusing on the act of photographing. I was enjoying it. But when I made it a profession, my focus was shifting. Now my focus was shifting to the outcome. My focus was shifting to the reward. Because it was important for me. I'm like, how will I pay the rent for this institute if I don't make... You see the problem? So that is another aspect of why we should not have the focus on the rewards. The focus should be on the task at hand and do it as an offering to God. How is that possible? Only if it is aligned with what you want to do. Okay. And another thing is samatvam, equanimity. Because what happens, even if you are aligned with the kind of job that you are doing, it may not always be a smooth journey. Sometimes what you are doing is aligned with your gunas, it is aligned with your inner nature, and still you are facing difficulties. Still you are facing hurdles. Then don't just give up and run. You see? That is where you need samatvam. Great example, Arjuna. Arjuna was Mahabaho. He was a Kshatriya. He was a warrior. And he was at the right place, at the right time. He was in the battle of Kurukshetra. Who better to fight that battle than Arjuna? But he had difficulties, emotional difficulties. And what did he do? How did he react to emotional difficulty? He started getting a mental diarrhea. He started letting his emotions rule over him. And although he was doing the right thing, although he was in the right place, although he was aligned with his duties, still, what Krishna asked him to have at that time? Samatvam. He said, calm down. Have some kind of equanimity. Have samatvam. Difficulties or victories, take them equally. You see, that is a lesson for all of us. If we have that, then we can do what Krishna is asking us to do, is the whole lesson here. Perhaps the most profound aspect of Krishna's teaching is the integration. See, I have tried to put it in words that may appeal to all of you. If you see how beautifully Krishna has brought his teachings here, he has integrated seemingly opposite concepts. For example, acceptance and effort. They seem contradictory, but Krishna has integrated both of them. Accept who you are, accept your gunas, accept your nature, and then put efforts that align with that. So the integration of acceptance and effort. Effort does not always have to be that I don't accept. You see? Beautiful. And then humility and confidence. Krishna has integrated that. He has said, do what you are supposed to do with a mindset of humility and devotion. Arjuna cannot fight and win a battle if he did not have the confidence that he can win. But it was confidence and humility at the same time. When will you get humility instead of pride? If you do what you are supposed to do without the mindset of being the doer. No doership. That is how he has integrated this seemingly contradicting qualities of humility and confidence. Just like that, service and self-realization. Modern society always thinks they are contradictory. They are saying you can either do your work, day-to-day work, I have to handle my family, I have to handle my bills, or I can sit and do bhajan and I can... What, isn't it? Don't we think it is two opposite directions? But Krishna has beautifully integrated that also. He said, whatever you do, that itself can be a worship. So service and self-realization also he has integrated. Don't you see how beautiful it is? He has integrated seemingly opposite principles into one beautiful cohesive narrative. So then this makes it possible for us to succeed on this path. You know, all Krishna is saying is, all these seeming contradictions, they will all dissolve when you are evolving towards higher consciousness. He says, the higher your consciousness, the lesser these contradictions. He says, in higher consciousness, all of these contradictions, they dissolve. Isn't it so beautiful, right? Okay. So that is the whole message. That is Sri Krishna's gift to humanity, the recognition that we don't have to choose between heaven and earth. We don't have to choose between service and self-realization. We don't have to choose between, doing our duties and spiritual growth. Krishna says there is no contradiction. Heaven, earth, service, self-realization, duties, spiritual evolution, they're all integrated. They all work together. Is his beautiful message for all of us. So my blessings, may we all use these insights to guide our own selves to our own natural calling, to work with our heart and to offer everything to the divine and treat every moment as a moment of worship, no matter what we are doing. So I hope all this makes sense. Hare Krishna. That concludes this section. I'll open the floor if anybody has any questions or comments. The floor is open. Yes, Deepaji.
No, this thing about doing the duty aligned to your nature, I want to share one story of my sister, my middle sister, Shilpa. So she works for this company called SAS. She's in the admin department, and typically admin department, how much ever they do, they'll never appreciate it. But she kept doing her work selflessly, and she just kept doing it to the extent that she got identified as the best employee globally, and she was sent with her family to the US to receive that award. So when you do your it was a perfect example of what you yeah. And she was sent with her family. Of course, this was a couple of years back. Well, I was also working, and I was like, typically being in an admin department, you're always admin kya karega, in the corporate world how it is. But that gave me so much respect for her. Like, she kept doing what she enjoys selflessly, but little that she realized, and she was identified as the best employee. So,
Excellent
I mean,
example. Thank you. Thank
yeah,
you for sharing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Excellent.
But Guruji, I lost myself somewhere where you were saying, no, you liked photography, but you had to change it because it was not remunerative. See, I mean, it happens. When we were children, we used to watch Olympics. I was very fond of gymnastics. Of course, I didn't get the exposure and all that. But I'm just sharing. But I lost you. Like you said, it was not remunerative, and therefore you had to realign yourself. If you
The
could just.
focus. I was saying the focus. So when you do something as a hobby, you are enjoying it because your focus is on just what you are doing. Like you want to get a good picture and you enjoy the picture that you are taking. But the moment it becomes a profession, now the focus is on making money. So now the focus becomes, what kind of photos I have to take and how can I monetize it? How can I sell it? How can I attract students? See, so many things comes into play. So now your focus has shifted to the results. The focus has shifted to rewards. Now that then takes away the joy of what you are actually. That is what I
I
was trying to say. And
Okay.
Krishna says, apply this principle to anything you do, is what Krishna is saying. Krishna is saying that is why shift your focus and don't be attached to outcomes, because that will not let you excel in what you are doing, and that will not let you enjoy what you are doing. That will not let you make your work as a worship. So let that go. Just do what you are supposed to do and keep your focus there. That is the whole point. And I was giving you an example of how I realized it in my own life when my focus shifted from enjoying what I'm doing. Instead of that, my focus shifted to how much money I can make. Then that suddenly that task became less enjoyable. The task became more like a burden for me. And I've heard this from other people also. Like just 2 days ago, I met a photographer here in near my house here, and that lady does wedding photography. And she told me, I think I'm going to just stop. Because I've stopped enjoying photography because now I'm so worried about my clients, and I'm so worried about my, my social, how people are looking at me and how successful I'm becoming. She said, the old enjoyment I used to have when I used to click a photo is gone. And I said, yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. So that's the whole message.
Get it. Thank you. Thank you.
No, welcome.
So, Guruji, just to understand it clearly, so that aspect of joy, that bliss was missing, and you were putting an expectation on the outcome of it. So then it wasn't a nishkama karma. You were having some set of expectation after doing what you were doing, as opposed to just doing it as an offering or as a part of your joy and bliss.
Correct. So my focus was shifting to rewards now. So Krishna said, focus on your work.
Just the doing.
Don't focus on the fruits. But when it became a profession, my focus was on the fruits because I have to make some amount of money. I have to have a certain number of students to make it sustainable, and so on and so forth. So when our focus shifts, the experience also changes, is the whole message.
Yeah.
I hope all this makes sense and it's very practical. I hope we are all able to apply it in our own lives, and I hope it helps us whenever opportunity arises to guide somebody else. Maybe this helps us guide them in a more holistic and different way. So that is the whole intent of this lesson. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Very happy to see you again. Meet you, I think, 3 more sessions probably. And then we will conclude this batch. And the next batch, I'm still hoping to start the next batch as soon as possible. So you all know we have this other group. And if somebody is interested, they can contact me. They can either contact me directly through my WhatsApp or Telegram, or they can go to pragmaticgita.com and there is a contact us page, and there they can send a message. Okay. And if we have enough quorum, we can start the next batch. And later on, I will also discuss with you on what else we can do and all of that. Okay. So till then, Hare Krishna. Take care and see you all in the next session.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guruji.
Hare Krishna.
It was a beautiful session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.